What's going on, everybody? This is the Butt and Breneman Show. He's Adam Breneman. I'm Jake Butt. And we are recording this Tuesday after what a great weekend, depending on who you ask. But it's the game. It delivered on all expectations, right? I mean, Adam, what was your thoughts on the game? You were watching it. Were you able to catch it? Were you able to feel the roller coaster of emotions?
I really wasn't because I had a game that kicked off at I think it was at 1 o'clock. So I saw my kickoff was 1 o'clock on Saturday. So I saw the first couple drives, and then about a half hour before kick, you're rehearsing the open. You're not able to pay attention. So I was getting my producer during the game. My game, I was calling an FCS playoff game, was giving me updates. So, but yeah, I mean, got to watch the film obviously, and it delivered. I mean, the biggest game of the year in college football, two of the best programs in the country. I'm not sure we didn't just see the two best, two top three teams in the country in that game.
I think we did.
Yeah, I think the thing that stuck out to me the most, looking at all the stats and watching the film, J.J. McCarthy continuously in the big games is just efficient. He's just efficient with the football, took care of the ball, did what he had to do, didn't try to win the game with every throw he made, managed the game super well. And I thought that was, even though it doesn't always show up in the stat sheet, I think how efficient and just how good of a game manager McCarthy has been goes unnoticed at times.
You talk about complementary football, right? Like that is Michigan. Every coach strives for that, but complementary football unit to unit, like running the football, play action, and then JJ, you make all the plays within the scheme, and then make some plays that you're capable of making anyways. Hey, we're going to run the ball and control the clock because we have a damn good defense, and we want to make sure they're fresh each week. And we're going to punt occasionally. We'll know when to be aggressive on fourth down and when to punt. Michigan's special teams, I think that's a big piece of this. It's underrated. Ohio State special teams have kind of struggled for a while, and there's really, to me, I can't think of a reason why that would be a case. You're Ohio State, you should be able to get anybody in the world. I think that is a easily identifiable way for Ohio State to improve next year. So I was calling Northwestern Illinois. Our kickoff was at 3:30.
Oh.
So I get over to Illinois Stadium so we're an hour back. So it was an 11 a.m. kickoff. I got over there at like 9:30 because I wanted to sit up in the media TV and I didn't want to be interrupted. I wanted to watch it. So I'm parked in front of this TV. And I was like the first one there, sitting in my chair in front of the only TV playing the sound, because I was like, I have to hear the crowd. Like I needed to hear the emotion. Dude, it was like I literally looked up. It was at that point, it was like close to the end of the game. It was like halfway through the fourth quarter. We're going to rehearse our open. And the whole media place had fully filled up around me, and I just was completely unaware of it because I was just watching the game. I forgot, my setting. We rehearsed the open, so my producer was like, all right, we got a minute till you're on air. And that's when the first completion on the final drive happened. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, no, this can't be. Like, what's about to happen? They're driving, and then the pick happens. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude. I mean, seriously, I don't think I was ever as exhausted as I was on Saturday night, even as a player, because that game was an emotional roller coaster. And then Illinois Northwestern,
your game
was
was
like,
great.
It was a great game. I mean, Illinois was a 2-point conversion away from tying it, so it was nuts. But
so you got a minute till you're on air, and the final drive starts. So did you go on air? Did you wait? Like, did you have to wait till a commercial break to see what happened?
No. So like the pick happens, and my producer's like, hey, we got 30 seconds. So I was just like, I give a couple high fives for like 10 seconds, and then like I'm smiling. I got to send you the picture. Maybe we can overlay it here, like the smile on my face and
smile. You're on camera.
yeah. That one. I was like literally my lips were all the way out there. But hey, listen. The beautiful thing about the rivalry is I've experienced deep pain. I've been on the wrong side of that. I never beat Ohio State. Right. I was 0-4 in my career. I think it's important to say. Maybe I'll ask you because you went to Penn State, but to me, like, this is not just another game. It isn't another game. It is not another game. There is this, and then there's Ohio State, Michigan at the end of the year. It is in a category of its own, even beyond, like, even beyond like championships, right? Like you understand in order to win a championship, this game has to happen. But this one alone, it's completely different. What do you think, kind of from an outsider's perspective?
I mean, you're spot on. It's not another game. It's not just another game. I heard some of the Ohio State players after the game saying, we're not judged on one game. That won't define us. And the harsh reality is that it will. That is how you're defined, and that's the world of college football we live in. That you have to win that kind of game. And now that it's been a few years in a row for Ohio State, it's painful, and the fan base isn't happy, and the expectation is extremely high, partially because the commitment is so high from that place in that program. But it's not just another game. It's funny, in the coaching world, Jake, that's kind of a big topic, is how you approach those kind of games. Because on the one end, it's that every game's the same. You want to know every single week, and you have the same routine and the same process, and you don't change anything every week. But on the other end, the game is different. And to not change anything or not act different or to not talk to your team any differently before the game and say, oh, got to go win this one, 1-0 this week. To do that is almost naive to the outside noise and what everyone's telling the players all week. I've seen Coach Franklin at Penn State battle with that. He's so process-oriented and the same thing. And I think he's kind of shifted things a little bit to like, no, like the Ohio State Michigan games are bigger games for us as a program, and they deserve a different kind of attitude and a different kind of intensity during the week. So, but yeah, you make a great point. It's not just another game. There's a lot of fans, I think, who would rather beat Michigan as an Ohio State fan, and maybe than some other of the accolades you can get at the end of the season. That is the most important game on the schedule.
I believe Urban Meyer said he would rather lose every other game and beat Michigan than the opposite. And I for me, I think about, I love my time at Michigan, had a great career, really enjoyed it, but like I will always I have to live with the fact that I was 0-4 against Ohio State. That's just the harsh reality. That's how I define my own career. It's at least part of the story. So we're going to get into our offseason awards. Offensive player, defensive player of the year, coach, coordinator, tight end of the year. Yes, but before we do that, let's talk about this past weekend in terms of, the four coordinators, Jim Knowles, Ryan Day, Jesse Minter, and then Sharon Moore. What stood out to you within that game?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for a long time with all four of those guys. I mean, I go back. We talked about it a little bit last week. I just think Sharon Moore has done such a remarkable job of putting the plan together on offense while also having to be the head coach and also deal with game management. Yeah. And as a first-time guy in that position, the poise he showed and how those players have rallied around him. And two, as the play caller, I've thought that he's been extremely poised and has stayed within the system and hasn't tried to do too much and just has really showed a lot of maturity in that role. I think he'll be a head coach very, very soon in college football. I think he's shown that he can be in that position. And on the defensive side of the ball for both those teams, I thought Jim Knowles and Minter had great plans going into it. I mean, we saw what the strategy was going to be early on. For Ohio State on offense, it was try to get the ball on the perimeter and make Michigan tackle in space. And I thought Ryan Day had a good plan. Overall, what we saw was two of the best teams in the country, two of the best defenses in the country, going at it at a high level. And I thought all those coordinators performed really well. But I always go back when I think about that to Sharon Moore and how impressive he has been during his time as the interim head coach and as the play caller.
Phenomenal job, man. Some of those fourth down, like the schemes within the game, I mean, your longest run of the day is a quarterback power with your backup quarterback. Your longest pass of the day is a halfback pass, right? Like, that tells you this isn't the game. You have those plays for this game. I thought he managed it well. That is so much more challenging than maybe most people understand. And, Jim Harbaugh said, hey, I wouldn't have changed a single thing about what Sharon Moore did after the game.
I think it's a big compliment, man.
A huge compliment. It felt like Coach Harbaugh was on the sideline in terms of some of the aggression on fourth down and decision making. So, okay, that is where we're going to pivot because there were some excellent players, excellent coaches in this game. Let's start with players of the year. Offensive and defensive player of the year in the Big Ten Conference. Adam, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, offensive player of the year. I'm going to go with the guy that I think impacts his team the most, and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State.
Yeah.
14 touchdowns this season, and number one in yards, touchdowns, most important player on a team offensively. And I thought he made Kyle McCord look better than not better than he was, but he made Kyle McCord look comfortable out there and look comfortable as a first-year starter. Always made the big play when they needed a big play. My runner-up would be Blake Corum. I think other than, he's the number 2 as like who impacts their team the most. And it's close. It's not. I don't think it's a runaway from Marvin Harrison Jr. But if I'm picking one, I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. as the offensive player of the year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, those are my 2 too, and I think that's where the decision has to happen. Blake has the advantage of winning the game last weekend. I wonder how much that weighs, but I can just tell you, you're exactly right. For McCord, Marvin Harrison Jr. solves problems. Like, not every ball is perfect or pretty, but you better believe if he gets his hands on it, he's coming down with it. Calling a couple Ohio State games this year, the amount of respect opposing coaches and coordinators had of him was about as high as anyone I've heard this year. I mean, Minnesota effectively played double coverage on him the entire game. Jesse Minter did a great job of doubling him when they could within the scheme.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate respect. It's why numbers can't tell the whole picture in college football. You have to look within the numbers and look at the tape. So defensive player of the year, how about I kick this one off?
Yeah,
okay?
Let's hear it.
Few guys I'm looking at. I'm going to go with Jay Higgins because of you think about a linebacker that leads the Big Ten in tackling by a pretty wide margin, actually. And he's the heartbeat of the defense that is effectively the driving force for Iowa's success this year. He's done a phenomenal job. I think about the goal line stand versus Northwestern. We talk about a Heisman moment. Man, meeting that running back in the hole. I mean, just a phenomenal job. I think Andre Carter, Indiana's, sneaky guy, because he's up there in tackles, but he's also up there in sacks. He's also forced some turnovers. He has packed the stat sheet. Johnny Newton is another one, a guy where, like, oh my gosh, I mean, you call an Illinois game and the offensive coordinator's like, yeah, Brett Bielema said, and he's coached some all-time players at Wisconsin and Illinois. He said, there's certain guys when they're on the field, they affect everything. He said Johnny Newton is that guy, the best he'd ever seen. So those are my 3, but I'm going to go with Jay Higgins.
I think, I had Newton on my list. How important he is to that Illinois defense. He'll be a top 15 pick and most dominant. He's been the most dominant D lineman in the conference for 2 years now. He's been that good. The guy that you didn't mention, Jake, that I think has to be in the running here is Mikey Sainristil from Michigan.
Yeah.
I think, with his, I think he has 5 or 6 interceptions and a couple defensive touchdowns.
Leads the conference, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Leads the conference and he's one of the most important players, the most important player probably on one of the top defenses in the country. So I think he's up there, but I agree with your picks. I think there's a lot of different ways to go on the defensive side. Love the Carter pick too.
Yeah. Traditionally, I'm curious. It seems like the defensive player of the year oftentimes comes from within the box. Not that that's right or wrong or anything. Mikey, you're right. You're right. Thank you.
You're right. He should absolutely be in consideration.
I think a lot of times it's because when the media votes on awards, it's like who's closest to the ball, right? And the guys in the box,
tackles and then organize highest to lowest.
Exactly. I think I was looking up. When I was picking this before we went on, I was looking at Mikey's stats and I think he only has like 30 tackles this year. Total tackles. Like he hasn't been around the ball that much, but he's made some huge plays, and is a force back there. And another guy that coordinators are always talking about and having to account for and how much he impacts the game.
He's a really great blitzer.
Yeah.
And he seems to always be in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go to our tight end of the year, and then we'll get to freshman of the year, but I would like to give you the floor.
Yeah, this was tough. This was tough, I'll be honest. There's 2 guys, tight end of the year. I'm assuming we probably have the same 2 here. You got Cade Stover from Ohio State, and you got Colston Loveland from Michigan. And I was torn, man, because I recruited Colson Loveland when I was coaching. I remember seeing him out of Idaho. We were trying to get him, and he ended up going to Michigan. So, like, I'm a Colson Loveland guy. Also met Cade Stover at Media Day. So I was like, which way to go here? I'm going to go Cade Stover. I think a little bit better numbers, a few more catches, a couple more touchdowns. I thought Stover really developed his game this year from a kind of an H-back receiving tight end to a well-rounded NFL prospect that can play Y and play in line at the next level. And he became even more prominent in the passing game, especially with Ibuka missing some time and some of those injuries that Ohio State had a receiver. I thought he was stepped up in some big moments and improved the game. Now, also, Colson Loveland, that dude will play 14 years in the NFL. Like, he's going to be an absolute beast. I think he'll be a Mackey Award guy.
Absolutely.
I think Cade Stover is my tight end of the year.
Yeah, if Colston doesn't leave after his junior year, I think he's got a chance to be back-to-back Big Ten tight end of the year, like Mackey, all that good stuff. Those are my two. I even think A.J. Barner is a sneaky one because he has some pretty good production, and he's an unbelievable blocker. A phenomenal blocker, maybe the best in the conference. But yeah, it's just, it is the nature of this where numbers do matter. And Cade's numbers, that is the tiebreaker in this scenario. Both guys, the challenge is from a number standpoint is both guys like Cade, it's Marvin Harrison Jr., it's Ibuka, it's Trey Henderson. Colston, you're sharing the room with A.J. Barner, Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, Blake Corum, Donovan, right? So the numbers can be a bit challenging in that sense. But yeah, give the slight nod there to Cade Stover and Colston. You got a chance to go back to back going forward. Freshman of the year.
Freshman. Am I kicking this off?
Do you want to? I know. There's one that it has to be, in my opinion.
I'm interested to hear who you have now because I didn't think this was that big of a runaway. So
wow,
I'm curious now. All right, my freshman year, I have Dylan Thieneman from Purdue.
Okay, all right, cool.
I didn't think it was that much of a runaway, but he's won freshman of the week like a handful of times.
Yeah.
I think he could be in the running for defensive player of the year as well.
Could be. Yeah,
he's that good. 6 interceptions this year. 100 some tackles, but yeah, he's looking around, normally the freshman of the year, from what I've seen, goes to offensive players, which is why I was trying to find. That's why I didn't think it was that big. There's not like an offensive freak that's easy to pick. Right. Like last year it was Nick Singleton. But yeah, I think Dylan has earned that award this year.
He's my pick too, and I just think like if you turned on the tape and you had no idea, if you had no prior knowledge, you would be like, that guy's not a freshman. Like that guy looks like he's ready. Yes, and And the way Ryan Walters plays the defense, like he's in a unique position. Like the way they use him at safety is different from the way a lot of teams use their safeties.
How? I haven't seen a ton of Purdue film. How do they use them differently?
They line up pre-snap like 25 yards back. Like they start pre-snap much deeper on a lot of occasions, and they want them to kind of see everything and play downhill. There's a lot of space back there. And of course, Ryan Walters, like that system is a lot of man coverage. So, I called the Fresno State game. He's a brand new freshman. He made a bunch of plays, and he did some great stuff on special teams. So, excited to see his career. Sidney Brown, what he was able to develop at Illinois with Coach Walters. That guy's one to watch out in the future. All right, let's go with coordinator of the year.
All right, kick it off. Who you got?
It has to be Phil Parker or Sharon Moore. It has to be. And I want Phil Parker to win this award, and I want Phil Parker to win the Broyles Award. I think it's criminal he hasn't won that yet. I think I can't fathom why, but the tough thing for Phil Parker is Sharon Moore had a chance to do something Phil Parker didn't do, which was stand in as a head coach. And to be the head coach for two of the most impressive wins in college football this year, one on the road, one at home. That to me tips the scales where you have to acknowledge what Sharon Moore has done, not just as a coordinator, but a leader of this team. Of course, the unit he coaches, the offensive line, like they just continue to, the unit he's in control of continues to impress. So to me, it's Sharon Moore.
Yeah, I think Sharon Moore makes a lot of sense because of the situation he's endured and what he's stepped in to do as the head coach. I do think, though, if this is a pure who's coordinated the best side of the ball in the conference, then I don't think it goes to Sharon Moore, because the Michigan's offense hasn't been the best in the conference. I think if it goes
close,
it's been good and better than it has been, but you know what I'm saying? It's Sharon Moore makes more sense because of what he stood in and done. I think that if you're going coordinator of the year based on performance on the field by their unit, it's got to be Phil Parker from Iowa, and if it's not Phil Parker, it's got to be Manny Diaz at Penn State. I think Manny has a case in there for best defense in the conference with total yards per game, and giving up like 10 points a game. I think Manny has a case as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Phil Parker. He's going to be the popular pick for the coordinator of the year in the Big Ten, and I think from what he's done and gotten them in the Big Ten championship game, which is pretty much remarkable, single-handedly by the defense, is impressive.
Yeah, those are all great names. A lot of deserving names. It can get a bit challenging. Head coach of the year. This one to me is after this past weekend, after the season, we made the point when we were calling Northwestern Illinois that it has to be David Braun. I mean, when you talk about exceeding expectations, I don't think there's a coach in sports, not just in college football, not just in the Big Ten, not in football as a whole, but in sports, that has exceeded expectations more than David Braun has this year. If they had one win at this point in the season, no one would bat an eye, no one would say anything. And yet, look where they're at. The improvement in turnover margin year over year is one of the best in recent history. The defensive numbers, which when Northwestern's good, it's led by the defense. Defensive numbers, much better. Hardly penalized. They make few mistakes. That's him. That's him. Rallied guys around. I mean, you got a transfer quarterback, a couple transfer receivers. He's done just a phenomenal job.
Yeah. I mean, to echo what you said, I'll be very, very clear here. David Braun is the head coach of the year, and it doesn't even really deserve a conversation. I mean, most polls had Northwestern dead last in the conference.
Yes.
In one of the worst teams in FBS football, if not the worst team in FBS football, and they won 7 games. This was one of the best head coaching jobs the Big Ten Conference has ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I see this is a little bit of my issue, because now you're talking National Coach of the Year. I think he should be National Coach of the Year. I know Deion Sanders is a popular name. I get it. It's a little bit, Deion Sanders' name carries weight. We've talked a lot nationally more about Deion than we have Northwestern. But my goodness, if you just, for every reason you just said, man, I think he's a Big Ten Coach of the Year. I think he's the National Coach of the Year in college football.
The difference, though, is what Northwestern went through as a program and all the outside noise. Colorado, yes, they had turnover and they revamped their roster, but I mean, that Northwestern program was, it wasn't a good offseason for them. And they went through a lot, and those players, and when I say they, I mean the players. The players that led by David Braun went through a lot, and David Braun, I remember being at Big Ten Media Day. And I mean, you were there, Jake, and just kind of the aura around David Braun in Northwestern, and it was not good. It was negative. It was like, man, I feel bad for this guy, right? It was, I feel bad for David Braun that he has to go coach this team this year. And the job he's done is remarkable.
It felt like an impossible situation back then. You know what? So I called that game last week, and I just asked him. I said, Coach, what's been your favorite part of the year? I like asking those questions to get context. What's your call? Hey, Coach, what's your favorite part of the year? Is it making a bowl game? Is it a number of different things? He said, you know what? He thought about it for a while. He said, my favorite part of the year, he's like, the best part of this year is when guys text me or call me and say, Coach, this is my favorite year of football I've ever played. Or it's, hey, Coach, I got that internship. I have a next step for me. I really appreciate you. I'm like, that is unbelievable.
And it was so genuine.
It was, when we talked to him, man, it was rarely about X's and O's. It was about everything over here. And the funny thing is, when you take care of this, the on-field tends to take care of itself. If you can love your players, sometimes that means tough love. Sometimes that means challenge them. Sometimes it means telling them a harsh truth. But if you can love your players, man, a lot of things fall into place.
So true. So true.
Okay, let's put a cap on this. Yeah.
Fan base of the year. Who you got?
Man, let's just paint the picture. Zach Zinner goes down in the Michigan Stadium last week, and I mean, first off, Zach, man, shout out to you. You're a warrior. Not a doubt in my mind. Not a doubt in my mind. You'll bounce back from this 100%. The way the crowd, Joel Klatt painted it and said they were chanting Zach's name. I mean, that Michigan, that to me was just such a beautiful moment for a fan base to rally around their player in the biggest moment. So, I'm going with Michigan in this one.
As much as I don't want to do that, I have Michigan as my fan base of the year.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you could go like Iowa, for all the kind of negativity and how bad the offense has been, but they still just keep showing up and winning games. But Michigan's the fan base of the year, and again, we've talked a lot this show about outside noise, dealt with a lot of it, and have dealt with a lot of stuff on social media, and it's got to feel good to beat Ohio State, to now be in the Big Ten championship. I think they'll win the Big Ten championship this weekend, and it's a good time to be a Michigan fan.
Certainly, for a couple reasons. Iowa fans are awesome too. Awesome. I called that game. That's such an awesome environment. Now we've seen this matchup in Indy a few times now. They're always so amazing. You know what? Big Ten has some great fans. They really do. We have some of the best fans in college football here in our conference. So, final thoughts, Adam?
Final thoughts are we have a Big Ten championship game this weekend, Jake. And
are you going?
I'm not going. I'm calling a different game. I wish I could be there. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there. Excited, man.
We need a prediction to cap it off. What do you think?
Look, I mean, I think people understand the nature of this matchup, right? Like, I think they understand, Michigan is, you could make a case they're the best team in college football. They got a stifling defense, and Iowa struggled a bit offensively. Iowa is without their best player in Cooper DeJean. For Iowa, I think the key here, this game, the first 7 minutes, the first 10 minutes in this game matters so much. You have to force a big error out of Michigan, which they don't make too many. You have to force a big error defensively or on special teams to get favorable field position. You would ideally get a lead here and then hold that, because if Iowa wins, they have to hold Michigan under probably 10 points, 15 points, right? The challenge is no one's done that. No one's done that. So, the prediction is I think Michigan, continues with their momentum and wins.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think it'll be particularly close, but if it is to be close, it's going to be what you just said: the ball control from Iowa, play and keep away. Can't give Michigan short fields. When Michigan's in the red zone, hold them to field goals.
Yeah.
Their punter, Taylor kid, the punter from Iowa, needs to have a career day punting the football.
Yeah.
And got to play efficient football. And Iowa needs to get to the fourth quarter with a one-score game. Give yourself a chance and just extend the game and get to the fourth quarter with it close. But yeah, I mean, two great defenses, and it's been what a year for Big Ten football, man. We've had some. I feel like every week we've said that we have the biggest game of the year: Penn State, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, it's been a fun year for Big Ten to cover the Big Ten, and we're blessed to be able to do this and do the show every week.
100%, man. Yeah, it's been awesome hanging with you. We'll probably, as we're winding down, I got some things in the back pocket I want to talk to you next week for our show. So thanks so much, man. Good luck on your call this weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.
Appreciate it, man.